Coming up on Theater Talk.
If me or any of my co-stars in this play will say a joke we've said every night and it just crickets, and we just, Laura Benanti says it's like she dies for a second and she sees her grandmother. So now we have trouble not, like, if a joke bombs, like kind of looking up to the sky and going like, Grandma?
From New York City, this is Theater Talk. I'm Susan Haskins. Happy holidays, everyone. And I am joined by my co-host, Jason Zinoman of the New York Times. Jason, and we have a wonderful holiday guest. It is Amy Schumer, now appearing on Broadway in Steve Martin's Meteor Shower. Amy, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, the pleasure is all ours.
Oh, no, that's not true.
So, I mean, first off, you're a huge arena-filling comedian, best-selling author, right?
Yeah.
Blockbuster
These are the
movies.
things that identify yes.
So what are you doing on rickety old Broadway?
Oh, it's not about the money, Jason. I have been doing plays since I was 5 years old, and then majored in theater in college. I've seen a ton of theater. I have a theater company. I did a 2-year Meisner intensive with William Esper.
You have a theater company now?
Yeah, The Collective.
So how often do you get to work with them?
We meet every Monday. We workshop new plays, or if there's something we're working on. Every movie or every scene on my TV show was also workshopped through my theater company.
Did you work with them at all for working on Meteor Shower?
No. Jerry Zaks really wanted me to kind of show him the respect of letting him direct me and us, and yeah, I trusted him and went with that and didn't get any extra help on the side.
But were you someone who loved theater and then wanted to find a project, or was this one that came to you?
It's like I always wanted to go back to do theater.
Right.
And this came up, and I did Steve Martin's play Picasso at the Le Bonagio in college.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And he said, "Will you read this play?" And I read it, and he was like, "Do you want to do it?" And I was like, "I do. I really do want to do it." And then the next question was, "What's the least amount of time I can do it?" I said, "Is that the kind of team player attitude you're looking for?" Just with other like obligations I have, it was like, they were like, "Okay, 3 weeks of previews, a 12-week run, and like a month and a half of rehearsal," which is still a pretty big commitment. And I said, "Let's do it." And we started doing readings and workshopping it, and so it was a combination of Steve and really wanting to just get back on stage in a way that wasn't stand-up and just learn,
Right.
go in there knowing I know very little, and just be open to it.
And you're doing somebody else's material.
Yeah.
Which is kind of unusual for you.
Right, I do get the opportunity to do stuff I've written and also be collaborative with the writer. And Steve has been really, really cool and open with working with the actors on what we feel comfortable saying or ideas. And he's been really down to like let you try something, and then if it works, he's like, "Great, I'll put it in."
I would think he would identify with you. Do you think that's the case, that he looks at you and you have a career trajectory kind of similar to his?
We definitely connect and identify as performers. I don't know if it's because of, I think his trajectory was so crazy and he skyrocketed so quickly. And even though it's been written that that's what happened to me, that has not been my experience.
You don't see it that way now?
No, I've been doing stand-up for 15 years, and I wrote Trainwreck, and that came out like 3 or 4 years ago. And so, it was a good... It's a good 10 years of
really hard work.
Yeah.
Which is in front of a live audience. I mean, a lot of film actors have trouble coming to Broadway because they haven't worked in front of live audiences, which is not the case for you. But what is the difference between getting laughs in a comedy club audience versus a Broadway audience?
Well, the similarity I can start with, because I really think there's only one, which is that when you're, it's like a science experiment. You do these jokes and they're tested, and by the time the play opens, you know where the laughs are. And some audiences, it'll be a big laugh and some pretty muted, but once in a while, a joke that always hits just gets nothing. And it really throws you. And for me, I think bombing is really funny. It really makes me laugh. If me or any of my co-stars in this play will say a joke we've said every night, and it just crickets, and Laura Benanti says it's like she dies for a second and she sees her grandmother. So now we have trouble not, like, if a joke bombs, like kind of looking up to the sky and going like, Grandma? And that'll happen in stand-up too. And you're like, did I say it wrong? 10 out of 10 times a joke that works. And then the difference is it's really playing a character, because my stand-up has gotten closer and closer to who I really am. I'm playing a character. My theater training, it's real, like, really grounded in reality. And so, but you're playing this character who, she's dynamic, she goes through a change by the end, but it's such a farce that to really live it out and just be this woman, and it's not that. So this was another way it was kind of less comfortable for me, because it's not just, living this out truthfully. It's like, it's so insane.
Is it still changing night to night?
Not that much, but still, yeah, there will still be moments. It's like now we're open, and I don't know, I'm following the lead of these veterans, Jeremy Seamus and Laura Benanti, who are I just love them so much, and Laura and I have fully fallen in love. So if there'll be nights where we break, and Laura will, just something she does, and it just kills me, and the other night I literally just tapped Jeremy to say my next line, because I knew I would die laughing.
Don't people love it when you break?
They do.
Those are my favorites. Yeah.
But you do everything you can not to break, and I feel really bad about it when I do. But it is it's fun.
A lot of critics have pointed out that there's like allusions to Edward Albee, right? Is that
Albee, Ionesco, Durang? Mm-hmm. Sure.
Is that something that it was like a conscious thing in the rehearsal room that you talked about, or is it
No, not at all, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how much
in
was he there?
retrospect,
Steve Martin.
Oh, I was like, Edward Albee? Every day.
Edward Albee.
Steve was there a lot. So yeah, he's on the road with Marty Short doing their act, but he was there every second he could be.
So would he ever impose upon you his references, or he just let it play?
No, he was really respectful of Jerry also. Yeah. But it was also just a free environment to pitch things and whatever. But I think one of the reasons and where he felt connected to me was he wrote this, and then from the first reading I would say it, and I could look at him, and he looked at you the way you want your parents to, your whole, just like beaming at me, like that's exactly how I wanted that to be said.
Now, you spent 15 years on the road in comedy, you just told me. And I only briefly was around. I worked in comedy clubs, and I was not a comedian.
Really?
But,
what'd you do?
Oh, I worked in Chicago for the Chicago Comedy Showcase. I did publicity and things like that.
Oh, cool.
It's a very sexist world. It's difficult.
Well, it's a sexist world anywhere.
Yes, in the big world. In the big world.
Yeah.
Did you,
I guess what you're asking kind of is like, is it harder for women in
Is it
comedy?
harder for women and yeah.
And how can you succeed under this?
Yeah.
So I would say it's harder just for women anywhere in any industry. Going to a Starbucks, it's just harder. You don't know what you're going to encounter. And some of the things that now with the climate when it comes to sexual harassment right now, I think we're more aware of these things that we've been conditioned to be used to. We're noticing them more and thinking, oh, I better tell this guy I'm uncomfortable with this, not just to protect yourself, but to protect the women who come after you, if they're a doctor or your coworker or just, even a date. It's like it's up to us to teach people what behavior is okay. I would say as a female comic, in my experience, I was given more opportunities because they want a woman on the bill. It doesn't look good for them. So I was given opportunities I wasn't ready for. And, but you got to catch up. You do the work, you get better. And I definitely encountered situations I was uncomfortable with, but I've had a very sweet path and have always been this way where I've just, not been worried about being liked, you know, and now
That's
it's
a big
good.
thing, yeah.
Yeah, I just not having that concern about, well, I don't want to make anyone uncomfortable. And I mean, I have over the years, like as a younger girl, maybe you know a guy's gonna kiss you, and instead of going, hey, I can feel you're gonna kiss me, just don't. You would just kind of be like, oh, I'll just kiss him, so I can skip this interaction. But honestly, as a female comic, and I guess I just think of myself as a comic. I think that's important to say, but I didn't get harassed very much. There are, you know, rude comments and people making up reasons why I was succeeding and lies and things like that. And I'm like, I've never slept with anyone who could help me at all. You know, like that sounds great, but I've never even dated a guy with money.
Well, that does sound great.
Like that sounds awesome.
Me neither.
But
Has this whole moment made you think and look back on your career and think again about some exchanges that you had?
There are things now that I encounter that I didn't used to. You know, I've made like 5 movies, and those there were sex scenes. There's somebody coming over and miking you, and which means that there's someone, and you have a very nice sound guy here, so I don't want to make him self-conscious, but it's someone, you know, coming over and putting a little microphone here, and it's a very intimate thing. And then a sex scene, you know, I had a guy say, he was completely off camera, but he was just kind of tapping my inner thigh. Like and I'm like, why are you doing that? He's like, just like to help you like think of what it would be like. And I'm like, please
Whoa.
don't do that. And they kept doing it. And, you know, you just have to assert
that's
yourself.
A Me Too moment.
There are Me Too moments every day.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
really. And, you know, I know for women, it's like, oh, you don't want to make a big deal. But the thing is, it's not everyone already knows this, but it's not unique to actresses or comics in a male-dominated industry. It was when I was waiting tables was probably when it was worse than anywhere else, you know?
But yet you had the confidence to do very what I'll call raunchy material, excuse me, you know.
Well, I think in a lot of ways, yeah.
You were brazen to do that, yeah.
I think in a lot of ways that was me trying to sort of take the control back. I make jokes about the things that make me the most uncomfortable. If there was sadness going on in our family, I'd find a way to joke about it. If things that really hurt me, like I used to watch that show I Survived, which it's just these stories of these people who had near-death experiences, and they were assaulted or they were attacked by a mountain lion. And the first time I saw an episode of that, I cried hysterically. I was so horrified with what happened to these 2 girlfriends. And then the next time I watched it, I was kind of laughing and joking about it. And it's because I just felt too awful and vulnerable. And so I think there is a lot of funny stuff to be mined from sex, but I think it is.
When I read your biography, I saw that there was tragedy in your childhood with your father. You dealt with some tough stuff in your childhood, and that one wonders if that didn't add to your resilience.
Yeah,
that made you so tough.
for sure,
Yeah.
for sure. That was my defense mechanism.
But you also have done some of the funniest and kind of most important feminist humor, you know, primarily in your TV show.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can't help but wonder, like right now we're in such a revolution right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel like, oh, I would love to be working on sketch comedy right now so I could weigh in on what's going on?
I don't want to be doing that right now. Not since the election, not in this climate. I don't feel like I could make anything funny about this right now. Not really. I'm like too upset.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of
You
people
know,
are like
I mean,
that.
and all this stuff, I was furious while we did it.
Right.
But I just feel like the election, it made us feel so beaten down, and it just needed a little time to recharge. And so right now I feel like is this sort of, this rise of me and my friends I'm close to, ready to really, really fight, you know?
This play is in many ways sort of escapist, but there's some lines in it which do kind of resonate with the moment. And you have this one line in the play where you say you wouldn't want to be, your character says, you wouldn't want to be a man because you couldn't stand the advantages.
Yeah, they say, aren't you glad you're not a man? And I say, oh, so relieved. I couldn't stand all the advantages. And the crowd goes nuts.
They do. Have they gone, has the reaction changed over the course?
Except for like one Wednesday matinee, but it was just, a sea of the whitest, richest. It looked like the audience had been on the Titanic.
We have a minute left, but I just want to ask you, do you ever feel a little overwhelmed by all, I mean, do you have things swirling around you now? I mean, you know, do you ever think, oh, this is too much, or are you just up to it?
It's just not real.
Ah.
As long as you know that, and I'm lucky, I was recognized as an artist, you know, in like my 30s. So I already knew this, it's cyclical, and that, you know, to get any confidence from any sort of hype about you or what people want to talk to you in that moment is I wasn't that naive. So my friends, my family, you know, that's it.
Amy Schumer, how wonderful to have you here.
Thank you.
Jason Zinoman, always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
Wonderful, a pleasure.
He's the best. I'm told I use very banal adjectives. All right.
Who tells you that?
Wow.
Stop talking to that person.
So, Michael Musto, when you and I first talked about you becoming one of my guest co-hosts, the first guest that we both thought of is here with us today, Agosto Machado.
Welcome, Agosto.
Oh, thank you.
Agosto is one of the bright lights, as you know, of avant-garde theater, and you started in the 60s with Jack Smith, the performance artist, and then you entered into the world of La Mama thanks to Jackie Curtis, who of course was a famous drag queen who was later discovered by Andy Warhol.
Yes.
Yes, and I say to people, younger people, I say, you know the song Walk on the Wild Side? Well, there's Jackie Curtis and Candy Darling, with whom you co-starred in the epic production called Vain Victory, which began in 1971, and I want to show you a little clip of that right now.
If the only sin, evil, according to the world, is to take life, then murder is a symbolic act of evil, and one must instinctively recoil from it. Operator.
Agosto, what were you playing there? What was your role?
I think I'm a loose woman there.
Now, you have always said, and you were so wrong, that you have no talent. That already proved that you have a lot of talent. You're
Well, there's
very
a question
presentational.
mark of what am I doing? What am I saying?
You have said also that you got swept into this theatrical scene almost by accident. It was like Alice falling to the rabbit hole.
Yes, and I'm still falling.
So it was not a choice that you went after.
No, no, no. I tell people that I was a pre-Stonewall Christopher Street queen who got swept up in the revolution of alternative theater, gay rights, anti-war, and I don't know why I was marching with Black Panthers and anything, including the St. Patrick's Day parade. I just had so much fun, and I had no idea where the journey would take me. But there were so many wonderful people, which includes Marsha P. Johnson, whose button I'm wearing, who she and Sylvia Ray Rivera are truly the Stonewall veterans and a continue on of the transgender generation.
Yes.
So you were pretty much a full-time activist, and then you find yourself on stage at La Mama. How did you make that transition?
Well, it's still puzzling, but Jackie Curtis invited me across the footlights, and I told her, Jackie, I really can't sing, dance, or act. And she said, you're even better.
You're perfect.
Yes.
This production, Vain Victory, which I saw in 1971, so it began
Earlier.
way earlier than that. And I was in college. We came down to the Bowery, and here's all of these, what to me were drag queens, doing this endless, what seemed to be very improvisatory show, which was the smash hit of the theater season, and so prescient in terms of where the culture was going. That Jackie Curtis organized all you drug freaks, as you defined yourself, together.
Research scientists.
Research scientists. What was the quality of Jackie Curtis that she brought all of you together in this way?
Well, Jackie Curtis was so all-inclusive. If you, she ran into somebody in the street and they said, oh, could I be in one of your shows? She said, of course, show up tonight. That spontaneity and that people thought was, gee, It doesn't look rehearsed. Well, a lot of it wasn't.
The genius of Jackie's plays.
Jackie's
I didn't
plays,
see
right.
Vain Victory. I saw her later.
Well, you're
plays.
too young.
You're too young.
Thank you. I said that already. Yeah. Well, that they were over the top, campy, self-indulgent, and hilarious, and littered with Hollywood references. She was enamored of the old Lana Turner, Maria Montez type of divas.
Well, in this clip we showed, Candy Darling was being Jean Eagles.
Yes. She was probably doing Kim Novak as Jean
As Jean
Eagles.
I'm Gene Eagles!
And she loved Kim Novak. And Kim Novak actually did write, she wrote a fan letter, and Kim Novak actually wrote to her, and thank you so much. And it is in the Andy Warhol Museum.
And say about Candy Darling, for those out there who don't know who Candy Darling was.
Candy Darling was spectacularly herself, and beauty and her belief. And it was difficult coming from Massapequa out in Long Island. The woman in her spoke.
And who had she been in Massapequa?
She had been her male name,
Yes.
but she insisted in dressing in girls' outfit. And then she would have to go to school dressed in male drag, and then come back and dress around the house. But
She was sort of the downtown answer to Marilyn Monroe,
oh, truly.
right? Now, you said that it wasn't all rehearsed. How much of what we just saw in that little clip was improvised by you?
Oh, no, I don't know how to do those kind of theatrical things. That was structured, but it was thrown
through
together.
the years, have you improvised on the spot?
Well, I don't have a memory, and
So you have to
You and
improvise.
me.
I
both.
have to. And
Well, it's
so-
inspired, and I wish you would stop saying you have no talent.
No, it's true. It's that playwrights, I'm in place, but they can't give me lines because I don't know when to say it, or now, am I supposed to now?
You know what? I could give you a list of people who really don't have talent. You're not on that list.
No. But so, now, Augusto, another facet was you were in the orbit of Andy Warhol
yes.
back in the day.
Carefully.
Carefully. Well, say a little bit about that. Why carefully?
Well,
And you're here to tell the tale carefully.
we don't speak ill of the dead
All right.
or that circle, but it could be hazardous and it's very vicariously dangerous, is the politics. And I should clarify something for the future is everyone thinks the Andy Warhol factory was one loving family. Well, it wasn't, because the drag queens got the attention at every gathering, all the photographers and so forth. And there was that, not quite animosity, but let's say it was jealousy.
But I think that Valerie Solanas proved the lie to that it was all a loving family when she got so mad at him.
Well,
that
she was psychotic.
Well, true. Well,
Which
but
made a statement.
But let me just say this.
Yeah.
Somebody who was a true mentor to you was Ellen Stewart, the creator of La Mama. How did she
truly.
figure into your creative life?
Well, an older queen whose name evades me took me to a little basement, a sort of dirt and cement basement on East 9th Street. And he said, "This is theater. These people are true artists."
That was the first incarnation of La Mama.
Yes, in 1961.
It moved 3 or 4 times.
Yes, since then. But I'm still 39.
So am I.
Oh no,
But what-
I'm a year older
That
than you.
means you're
Was she
29,
was
right.
she encouraging to you and make you feel comfortable on that
Well,
stage?
she made everyone. She was like Jackie, so encouraging. Baby, you can come here anytime you want. And she encouraged everyone. And there, of course, was Lanford Wilson, Sam Shepard.
Harvey
and
Fierstein.
I met Harvey Fierstein when he was 16, when he did America Cleopatra. And
what was that?
that was a Jackie Curtis play directed by Harvey Tavell. And they couldn't find this person to do this 10-minute monologue. And Harvey Tavell was a school teacher I think at New Lafayette. And there was a precocious student that had personality and pizzazz. And he would tell his mother he's going to do homework at someone else's house. Come, take the subway into, do a 10-minute monologue, and then go back, I think, Borough Hall, where the part of Brooklyn he was from.
Now that we're all still here, is there any survivor's guilt? So many people are gone. Or is there a surreal feeling of, I should embrace life, this is beyond belief, that I keep going?
Oh, well, as a surviving dinosaur, I do talk to this younger people, and when I say Warhol, they say, Warhol who? And
Oh,
they don't.
no. I had students from all over the world, and they wanted to know, oh, tell us more about Andy Warhol, talk about Andy Warhol. I invited you to my class, but going back to you to want to speak ill of the dead, we wouldn't come. Warhol is celebrated. That's why it's so important to talk about those things.
With the international students,
yes.
The local people don't. But Andy Warhol did a great service to the community because he did make Jackie, Candy, and Holly superstars, and that crossed boundaries, and that it inspired future generations.
But what do you feel your role is now, to educate or just to enjoy your life?
Well, I'm still wandering through and falling head over heel in the rabbit hole, and I just am saying yes to being on panels and so forth and so on.
What gender do you consider yourself?
I was having a little conversation with a queen of my circle, and I was talking about drag queens, and I noticed some younger people near me, and they said, "Sir, do you know how offensive that term drag queen is to us?" And there's a terminology, I'm not quite, there's cis, they apparently is being moved on to
I'm they because I'm gaining weight, so I'm becoming they. Cis is if you're born the same gender you stick with.
Oh, is that what it means? Oh,
That's me.
I need a college
We're boring
course.
old cis people.
All right. Agosto, it is such a pleasure to have you here at Theater Talk.
Yes, thank you for coming.
Oh, I'm such a
And
treat.
you are talented.
Oh, well, thank you.
You're talented.
Augusto. Michael Musto.
Thank
as
you,
always.
Susan.
Heaven.
My favorite cis person.
Thank you. Our thanks to the Friends of Theater Talk for their significant contribution to this production. Theater Talk is made possible in part by the Frederick Lowe Foundation, the Corey and Bob Dinelli Charitable Fund, the Noel Coward Foundation, Carrie J. Fries, the Dorothy Strelson Foundation, and the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs.
We welcome your questions or comments for Theater Talk. Thank you.